Good afternoon and welcome to Blockspeak 18. It's been more than 3 months now, but we're flying actually. We're getting a great audience, we're getting some great guests. Charles Hoskinson has just confirmed for next week, and then we've got Mad McAfee the following week. So from sobriety to madness in 2 weeks. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Richard Ells. I've heard great things about Richard. And I'm about to read from a script because I'm trying to work out exactly who he is. So Richard Ells is the CEO of Electroneum, as you can see from his beautifully designed background. It's an award-winning crypto company and uses the power of blockchain, obviously, to unlock the global digital economy for millions in the developing world or the emerging world, with a focus on creating a real-world ecosystem with complementary products such as anytask.com, etneverwhere.com, taskschool.com, and etndonate.com. Now, this is a subject that is very close to my heart. I wrote a piece for Forbes about 2.5 years ago about crypto adoption. And the kind of heading of this conversation is about crypto for the unbanked, or how it can be done. I've just looked up my piece that I wrote on Forbes, and actually it's not so bad. You know, it's stood the test of time, unlike many of my pieces, to be fair. That's why I got into podcasts. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, absolutely with gusto and glee. Richard Ells, nice to meet you, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on. It's very kind of you.
Like the background, it's very well done. You've obviously done this before.
Well, we've certainly, no expense has been spent.
Very good.
We're almost $200 into to 2 pop-up banners, and the rest of it is my fireplace.
Oh, is that a chimney behind you? Oh, excellent.
It is. Yeah, it looks like maybe a circa 1800 steam train funnel, which I thought in the cowboy land of crypto perhaps is fitting to be behind.
Absolutely. Where are you hiding out, or how have you been under the lockdown?
Yeah, well, we're all out of our office. Normally, we're all working from an office in Maidstone in Kent, just outside London, in the UK, of course. And currently, everybody's working from home, which we're all pretty much used to doing now. So it's still pretty weird, though. But I'm a people person, so I'm more used to having people around. But it is what it is. So
Do you think that will continue, the working from home thing? Because I mean, I started working from home 12 years ago, and actually spent 2 years in India doing it on a beach in Goa. So this is nothing new to me because I'm a kind of one-man band, I suppose. And it seems that everyone's catching up in that area. But is it something that, I'm a member of the Century Club in Soho. So I go to London every Wednesday from where I am near Brighton. And that's my London. And that's when I bring my massive together, and I'd love you to invite you along when things kind of ease up. So good afternoon, rooftop terrace. And I miss that, and I've had lots of calls. I'm not looking at you, but I'm not looking at you, if you know what I mean. And apart from my wife and 17-year-old, I've had face-to-face conversations with 3 people a few times, like 3 mates. It's not enough. You know what I mean? I've got no dopamine, no kind of gestural connection.
Totally agree. And for the youngsters, I think it's a social scientific experiment that's never taken place. And
absolutely.
It's thrilling, actually, especially for some of the very, very youngsters who are forming their first bonds. And there's a whole conversation to be had there for absolute sure. It's a worrying thing because it's never been done, I suppose. So.
Yeah, well, I suppose the policy of this country about education is really, this is for a pub in Maidstone, or come around my manor in Sussex afterwards, or the Century. But let's get back to the point, crypto for the unbanked. Tell us about yourself and kind of how you got here.
Okay, so I've been into crypto probably since 2015, I suppose. So not one of the real early adopters, but probably earlier than perhaps most. Was mining, had loads of mining rigs scattered around my house. I've got a tech background, so I've got 2 other businesses that have been around for quite a long time. One of which is a digital agency, has been around for 20 plus years. They're both reasonable sized companies, and one of the other companies deals with big Fortune 500 companies. It's a social media management platform. So I had a big team of tech guys. I'm a geeky tech guy myself. I was working in crypto, and it was just so fiercely complicated. I thought this everyone's talking about how it's going to catch on, and it isn't, because people haven't got a Linux box laying around that they jump out to the command line to and run some mining on a GPU rig that they just picked up. It's just not happening, except in this really geeky community. So we've been writing apps for other things, and I thought, let's speak to the app guys, and me and a couple of other people that were just interested in it decided we were going to write a mobile-based crypto. It was literally going to work only on mobile. So the first idea was to literally keep the blockchain itself on crypto on mobiles, and it didn't quite go down that route in the end due to storage space issues and all sorts of other things. We were monkeying around with proof of work algorithm back in the day, and melted a few smartphones in the process. But where it took us was that we decided if we made crypto really easy to access, then we could get people to adopt it.
So easy to access from an exchange?
No. Sorry. Yeah. So one of the things about Electroneum that you'll see if you do some digging is that we probably have more real world users than just about everybody. But not as many. Well, we have quite a large crypto community, but we're not. If you look at our volumes and things, we're in the top 100 on CoinMarketCap, but we're not massively traded. Even though actually our real world use is like I say, it's got to be top 3, top 5 cryptos anywhere in the world. Hundreds of thousands of crypto transactions taking place between users in the developing world, and we've also got 140 countries around the world where you can use ETN to top up your mobile airtime and data, thus giving it some real world value. Like M-Pesa that you were talking about just before we came on.
Yeah.
And so we knew that hopping out to airtime would give it real world value everywhere in the world where you haven't got an exchange. And they haven't got exchanges because they haven't got a bank account. And they can't get a bank account because they don't have a birth certificate. They don't even know when they were born. You know, It's so the system is massively skewed and hugely unfair towards the unbanked of the world, even though they don't really see themselves as unbanked and therefore in some way lacking. This is just an opportunity for crypto in general. Is a massive opportunity for these people. It's an empowering thing. So that's why I wanted to be involved. We didn't necessarily have the thought of the unbanked right at the beginning. Our first white paper mentioned the unbanked, but we were going down the gaming route. I had some friends of mine that run big gaming companies, and I thought, well, we can use them to hop into the gaming community. But then as we
games or gambling games. Gaming as it.
Well, both, funnily enough, actually, because I've got a friend of mine who is from Gibraltar, where the gambling industry largely resides, and he could get me into some of the big gambling places. And I had another contact that runs one of the big gaming companies and said, we could probably get this out to gamers. Well, anyway, and then we still had one eye on the unbanked, pretty much like probably every other crypto. But then when we ran our ICO and we started actually getting this app out there, and we were airdropping ETN to people to get us some to get ETN into the market, because people won't distribute and barter with something unless it's out there. So we had this huge distribution phase, just get it out, which brought us on millions of registered users. And but it was a big sort of airdrop. And then when we shut the airdrop down, people are now just moving this stuff around. So one person will buy from a street vendor. One of the first things we did was make an instant payment system, because you can't have real value being transferred with a blockchain delay because of confirmations. You know, we needed to solve that. So that was solved really early on. So you can walk up to a street food vendor, you can go bloop and pay them onto their phone, and they instantly get a notification, and then you walk away with your food. And that is taking place right now, and in reasonable numbers. I think we've done more than 300,000 app-to-app transfers between people in the developing world.
That's amazing, man. When I think of the unbanked, because I've written a lot about Africa, I immediately think about Africa. Would that be where those type of transactions are taking place?
Yeah. There's loads. We've got a massive community. We've got a big community in South Africa where we're on the ground. You're going to see a bit more coming from there, actually, because it sort of went quiet for a little while. But that's going to come back to life, which is great. We've got a massive community in Nigeria. We've got quite a few places in Uganda that have adopted ETN. Loads and loads of other places in Africa, but those are the real standouts. Then we've got Brazil is an enormous community and the largest phone top-up community that we have. All down across Southeast Asia. We were the first crypto ever to partner with an MNO, so a mobile network operator. So there's a company called Cellcard, amazing group of guys who run that in Cambodia.
Wow.
So we partnered up with them, and we're working on the ground in Cambodia to do some other things which are not quite public yet, but we're hoping to do more stuff. So effectively what we're saying is that the unbanked use case really grew out of the fact that what crypto needed was ease, which we came up with and invented. But then what it needs is benefit, and I don't think I fully had that part in my head when we were making it to start with, which is, why would a gamer use it? You have to have a massive benefit, and there have been quite a few gaming people who jumped into crypto, but unless there's enough benefit to using it, you don't adopt it. You know, it's like you've got Apple Pay in your pocket, and you've got a PayPal account, and you've got MasterCard, and you've got goodness knows how many ways to pay digitally. Whereas the unbanked, who were just naturally adopting our app and naturally using it, and naturally being attracted by a very small airdrop, because the very small airdrop to them was substantially larger in value in their life than it was to people.
Can I just go back to?
Of course.
So if I am a Nigerian, and I'm in a big market in Lagos, and I've got ETN on my phone, and I want to buy, for want of a better example, a load of fruit, I could use ETN there, kind of, I suppose, like consumer to vendor, and it's done automatically.
Well, the absolutely yes is the answer, but there are.
I mean, that's groundbreaking, bro.
Well, we've got loads of groundbreaking things. This is why it's a bit frustrating to me sometimes that the crypto community, first of all, they just didn't believe us, because we've actually managed to achieve something massive. One of the big things we've had, and I think we've now put the end to this, but people just didn't believe us. You know what crypto's like? It's full of lies and damn lies and statistics. So off we went and said, right, well, these are our numbers. And everybody went, yeah, well, everyone's doing those numbers. And we're like, are they? So, of course, they're not. They're just lying. So what we did is, do you know on Yavin? I don't know.
Yes, I do, yeah. It's either WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, he's a huge scam hunter. I think he's probably published details on 400 scams in crypto. I mean,
I think there's another guy who was part of Blockchain Rookies called John Walsh, who does a similar thing, and very passionate about doing this work, and fair play to him. Yeah,
absolutely right. And just hates the scammers. He's come up with a lot of different phrases, because some people they're not trying to scam. They're just, they perhaps raise some ICO money. They don't really know anything about business, and they're just plowing the money into the ground. And even though it's not necessarily a scam, nothing's being generated.
Yeah, it's just people being useless.
Yeah, pretty much. So he's gone into these things. So we thought, hang on a second, let's invite this guy in to take a look under the cover. Come into the offices before, of course, the offices were all locked down. Come in, ask. We've got a girl, Ellen, who works for us. She's great. She's a data analyst. So talk to Ellen, talk to anybody in the team, and just dig under the hood. Take as long as you want. Take a day, take 4 days, whatever you want. And he came down to the office for a day, and we said to him, can we commission you to write a report about what we're doing and where we're at? And you're welcome to publish it. So even if you think we're doing something awful and it's terrible, publish it. That's fine, and we'll learn from it. And he came down and he said it himself that he actually didn't think our figures would be real either. And then when he saw the figures are real, he's now on board, actually just come on board this week as an ambassador and advisor,
right.
Because he really wants to promote the product, because he said, look, you're massively underrepresented in the crypto world, because people are trading these cryptos, but the cryptos, probably more than half the top 100, they don't do anything. They haven't got any real world use or real world use cases for that matter. So we said, you guys deserve to be doing so much more. So he's come on board in an attempt to sort of, get us a little bit more involvement back into the crypto side of the world.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it sounds to me like it's. I mean, you can laugh at me at my face here, but I was a kind of mobile games pioneer about 15 years ago. We were a publisher, decision maker before the iPhone launched. Right, that's when developers could go directly to their audience. And it's very interesting the way you describe mobile crypto. It sounds very similar to mobile games when I was laughed out of court 15 years ago. Gamers thought you were pathetic because they weren't as good as PC or console games. And guess where we are now? Mobile games rule the world. It sounds a little bit like mobile crypto. If it's going to be as easy as that, It's a big story, mate, and I would get your PR company on it. I think a lot of people would be interested in the story. And, you know, it's a great thing. So it's funny.
Can I just throw one thing in, because we were talking about the chap in the market. So I just want to throw one thing in there, because we're seeing something. One of the things we get, which is brilliant, is we've got a hot wallet system on the phone. So you haven't got the private keys yourself. And one of the things I go on about, we're crypto lovers, right? So if you haven't got the keys, you haven't got the crypto. So we've got a paper wallet system to enable people, even with very low skills, to get their own keys and store ETN on their own keys. But the hot wallet system that enables the instant transfers and things is the easiest way for us to get this to be easily used. So if that fruit seller doesn't accept ETN because they've never heard of ETN, what's been really interesting is that what people will do is they'll walk up and say, I want to buy some of this stuff. And the guy will say, okay, well, that's $2. And they'll say, what network are you on? And he'll say, oh, I'm on MTN. And he'll say, let me fire you $2 worth of airtime to your phone. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And the guy will say, okay, as you know from that M-Pesa world, there's tangibility in airtime.
Absolutely. It's still currency.
Absolutely. So he can do that from the app. So we see a transfer. So we've done more than 170,000 phone top-ups in the developing world. And what you'll see from our data is that that's not 170,000 people. I think it's about 80,000 people that are using it. So they're not just necessarily topping up their own number. Some people are topping up 10, 15 numbers where they've gone out and they're using ETN to do things. By pushing airtime. So it's basically you've gone back to a barter system. With this in the middle of it. And then once the guy understands what ETN is, then he might have a little sign on his stand next time and he actually collects some ETN because then he can use it for his airtime.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, I keep thinking of Africa. So it's all like South America and Asia as well.
It's
yeah. I mean, the way you said it, I mean, especially when it comes to Africa, I've seen a lot of white saviors, you know what I mean? I have a lot of contempt for people that treat the African market as if it's like some weirdo place where everyone's the same. And I got put right at a conference in Accra in Ghana about 6 years ago, and the co-founder of the conference was what was it? It was it used to be the CMO of Quintessential. I don't know if you remember. That company.
Absolutely.
Yeah, getting into good clubs and all that stuff.
We've got one of the guys that was a director. He's unfortunately he's got COVID-19 and he's quite poorly. Chris Gorman. He's one of the guys who set up Live Aid. He's got an OBE.
Oh, okay, cool.
And he was part of Quintessentially right at the very beginning. So I think.
Oh, okay, so it's the thing. But anyway, so the geezer was obviously, you know, clued up. He's a very handsome man. You know what I mean? And we had a conversation because I think I'm doing a good thing there. I'm trying to get some African companies to come with me to America, then go head to head against North American companies at CTIA, the kind of American Mobile World Congress, right? And one guy put me right. He said, like, can you get them visas? Can you pay for the flights? I said, well, no, I'm just trying to get the best. He goes, well, what's the point of you being here? You know? And I was like, well, fair enough, you know, but I'm still doing my bit, right? And then the Quintessential guy, who's the co-organizer, he said, well, see, people like you, again, not too happy with that. He said, you think that all Africans want mobile health and things for pregnant African women and all that stuff. But that's why you're being a white savior, because pregnant African women need mobile health. But pregnant African women they also like Rihanna. They also like content. They like entertainment. So don't come here trying to save the world. You may as well just be an aid worker, you know. And that kind of set me right. It set me in my place. And it was like, fair enough. You know, I'm not as a bad white person, but you know, and all this stuff. So for you, what if someone said to you, oh, okay, that's great. You know, you've looked at the unbanked, you're in Africa, you're just another white savior. I wouldn't say that about you, but if someone
it's fine. Well, it's fine. Anyway, the point is everybody would be welcome to throw anything at me. I never mind people throwing anything at me, and I'll just tell it how it is.
Good man.
My vision was to create a digital payment mechanism that's really easy to use and accessible by everybody. So it's really irrelevant what color you are or what your religion is or your creed or anything else. We're trying to create something that empowers people, but it doesn't empower you based on any ethnicity, that's for sure. And certainly I would agree that every single market, again, not really based on ethnicity as much as local custom and various other things, every single market when you got on the ground reacts differently to how you have predicted to react when you sat in an office in London and went, how are they going to, how is this going to work? And everything that we did on the ground, certainly in the few places that we've physically been on the ground, has ended up being different to what we planned for sitting around a boardroom table, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
so I agree with that, but it's designed just to empower people, and funnily enough, one of the people. So AnyTask, we built that AnyTask platform. It's a freelancer platform like Fiverr. So one of the things I would say, anybody's watching this, I don't like to, try and punt things too much, but take a look at anytask.com. It's the fairest freelancer platform there is. It's like Fiverr, so you can go there and buy a digital skill. Except unlike Fiverr, where you have to pretty much be banked to use it, and they take 20%. You don't take 20%, and you don't have to be banked because the remittance takes place in ETN. So we've got some really interesting characters on that.
Yeah, interesting.
Thousands of them, in fact, thousands and thousands of sellers, and selling amazing skills. And some of the messages that we've had back from them, you've restored my hope for the future, and just these amazing messages. So we've got case studies being made and published by Ollie on the team, because he interviews people and we've given people some sort of form of empowerment. And that's all coming from crypto. So I'm not going to pat myself on the back. Our team have done an amazing thing, but crypto itself is just an amazingly empowering thing. And Electronium is trying to take the crypto world and disassociate it a little bit from the pure trading side. Of course, we need to be traded as well. And that's, that the crypto part of it takes place over there on exchanges. But at the same time, we try to get it in the real world where people really do move it around. Like money. So a £20 note doesn't go in and out of the bank. It goes round and round and round people in society. And that's what ETN is starting to do, which is exciting.
No, interesting. I mean, I actually have been patting myself on the back for the last 3 months because of social distancing. Do you know what I mean? So give yourself a pat. Give yourself a pat on the back, mate. I quite like that. If you wanted to be cynical, it'd be a great tagline for Electronium, wouldn't it? It'd be like "Unbanked lives matter." Do you know what I mean? But probably inappropriate. So, what other services do you offer? I mean, apart from that core activity, what else do you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, what we're trying to be is just a payment mechanism, and I say just. There's a whole lot of coding that's gone into just being a payment mechanism, but we've realised that to show the market, and I mean that completely widely, that we are an interesting proposition from a user's point of view and from a vendor's point of view. We put together a thing called ETN Everywhere. ETN Everywhere is basically a directory. It's a global map of where you can spend your ETN. So there's about 1,800 places on there at the moment you can spend your ETN, and we've got some things that could boost that number absolutely massively, but we're also going through FCA regulation at the moment, so some of those things might need to wait for a little bit of licensing that should come in next year. But
do you know an African-based company called Everyone Mobile?
I don't know it.
Is my ex-boss from about 15 years ago. Then the numeral 1, Everyone Mobile. I really think you should have a chat. I think there's a lot of possibilities there for business, because I like what Algie Williams is his name, ALGY, for the search for him. But maybe we can go offline. But I just instantly think that there is business there.
Fabulous. Yeah, I mean, the great thing is now we've built a sort of an API interface that we can tweak around and drop into people's airtime systems. So we've got a third-party company that de-risks it. That's been amazing as well. So one of the big things that people have is everyone wants to see cryptos get adopted, but they don't realize that from the risk factor, if you're a business dealing with another business, so let's imagine your colleague that if you walk in there and say, right, you should accept ETN, and he takes a look at ETN, and ETN's volatility is up and down 20%, much like the rest of the crypto market, and he goes, whoa, I've only got 7% margin, so 20% fluctuation in the value of the underlying asset it could leave me the wrong side of this
So how
trade.
do you solve that? That's a big deal.
So what we do is we've teamed up with a company that makes their money by doing this. So they have a pool that they immediately, so that the API fee takes place, and then immediately they make sure they're hooked into the entire market, so all the exchanges by API, and they will match that out and make a margin on it. So I think that nearly all the airtime is marked up by between 3% and 7%, depending where it is and how volatile their currency is. Their fiat currency. And then they make an instant trade somewhere to correlate it, and then they take their margin out of that and have made a fee. But what they've promised is that the airtime will be bought at the agreed rate. So there's a bulk purchase of airtime. And that effectively means it's been bought in dollars. But actually ETN is what's paying for it. So it's quite clever, but it's worked out exceedingly well for getting this out really fast to a global base.
So your timeline was you raised money with an ICO. You're still spending that, or
absolutely. But I mean, again, my lawyers say don't talk about it too much. But it will be out in September. Our accounts are out in September. It's easy enough to find out that we're very, very cautious with that. And we've got a lot left. And I can say that because if you look at our last set of accounts that went in, and then look at what the price of Bitcoin and ETH was, you'll be able to see that actually there was a lot there. And when it goes in again next time, people will be happy. I'm not supposed to talk about that at all. I'll get whacked on the head by the lawyer. I'll
stop now. It was funny enough, the guy I've just mentioned, Algie Williams, I joined this, there were games company, supposed to be 2003, and they just raised 2 million, right? It was quite big money for a company in Brighton. And then his COO, great guy, Anthony McGaw, he said, our philosophy now is that we've raised some money. Now, where can we cut back? And I always like that attitude. You know what I mean? We've just raised some money. We're not going to burn it. We're just going to cut back on what we're doing. It's always been quite a good.
Well, I'm always everything is done with regards to money extremely cautiously, and we make sure that the return on any investment is well founded. So we don't just scattergram ads out there with no analysis. Everything is split test. Everything gets split test down and then split tested again, and so on and so forth. So we're very prudent with what we do, and I think that that's absolutely critical to the longevity of anything. We're in really good stead with I can't, like I say, it's very difficult. Probably
listen, I don't want to
burn another decade.
No, absolutely, no. You've got a sufficient runway. Let's just say that. I mean, I don't usually waste my money, but I do have a strong interest in Verboten in the 410 at Royal Ascot this afternoon. I watched that horse run 3 weeks ago, and they've backed it down to 3-1. I've got 9-1. So that's what I'm doing as soon as it's in.
I think that's a very sound investment.
I think it's. I am so convinced it's going to win. I am absolutely convinced it's going to win.
We went to Ascot. I think it was last year, in fact. So I turned up. I rented a top hat and tail. Did the Ascot thing. A friend of mine invited me down there. So off we went, and they all know horse racing. I don't know much about it, if anything about it. And one of the horses was named after a character from a book I read when I was a teenager, and I thought, it's a sign. I don't believe it's signs I'm a geek. But nonetheless, I put my money on it, and he just looked at me with this sort of disdain. And it came in at
always
rank outsider,
always,
and my day was paid for. So that's my gambling experience. It was okay.
No, I'd stop there, mate, if I was you. I have never been to Royal Ascot, right? The old top hat and all that. I used to manage betting shops in Sink Estates in London. And this was the year I was going to go, obviously, COVID and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So that was a shame. But maybe I'll just get the thrill from Verboten winning the first.
Well, hopefully, if it's open again next year, one of the chaps that works for Electronium, a guy called Chris Norris. He is the guy who handles our exchanges. He's ex-City, worked in the City for years and years and years. So he knows that sort of thing inside out, knows the FCA procedures inside out, which is going to be important for us. And he's the chap that invited me up there, and I'm very sure that will be extended to you as well.
That's very kind of you. I did get invited 4 years ago to the Playboy box, right? And I didn't go. I mean, what was I thinking? But as Jean-Michel, the organizer...
How's the mental health now?
It's still up there, if you know what I mean. But I've got a godson in Malta. So his dad, it was a very sad story. His dad was one of my best mates, and then one of his kids died when they were quite young. So the mother was Maltese, they went to live in Gozo. And it turns out that we're in touch again. It's amazing. And Phil goes to Royal Ascot every year as well. Do you know what I mean? So, can mix the crowd up. Big crowd. Thank you. It's very kind of you. And I'll pay for the champagne with the winnings that I'm going to get from Verboten in the 410 Ascot. So as we come to the end of this, I mean, I thought Electronium was Ethereum the first time I saw the company. Sorry, maybe. Don't know about that branding, but we all.
Well, Ethereum was, to be honest, you've got to remember one thing, which is when this was just a twinkling in my eye, because I sat in my study over there and plucked a name out of the air. I was calling it Electron to start with, because electrons were what drove cryptocurrency. But there was a cryptocurrency. Don't know if it's still around, because you know what these things are like.
Yeah.
But there was a cryptocurrency called Electron, and then Ethereum was out, and Eum sounds very scientific, doesn't it? So it was highly scientific for me to just throw that on the end of Electron, and suddenly we were there. So there wasn't perhaps as much science that went into that name as could have, but that was the name didn't seem critical at the time. We were making the product, and at the time.
I'm being silly.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't know.
But I could quite see Electronium being added to the periodic table. It's got that type of sound.
It's going to be down in heavy metals, I think.
Yes. Exactly. Okay, so as we come to an end, so what milestones have happened as you've gone forward? Where you're at?
Oh wow, we've had loads of project milestones. So I think the first one was probably first one is getting the blockchain out there in the first place. But we forked from Monero right at the early days. So in terms of blockchain geeky stuff, we forked from Monero. Did that for two reasons, and I'll try and keep this really short. But stealth addresses were really important to us, because if you imagine you went to that street vendor and went bloop, and bought something from the street vendor, and then that street vendor could look into your wallet and see how much balance you had, suddenly that would endanger you potentially, because if you've got $200 of value, it might be worth robbing you somehow. So we wanted to make sure that people's wallet balances were not visible. So stealth address was important, and we had this vision for huge adoption. And at the time, the awesome team down there at Monero had come up with dynamic block sizing, which way back then, of course, this was everybody was using fixed block sizes. So dynamic block sizing was an exciting thing. So we forked from Monero, and then we stripped back 90% of the privacy, because we don't really need it to. We're not a privacy coin, even though we have some privacy features. We are, we're KYC, AML, so we're in the regulatory environment, but we just want to make sure our users were protected. So the first thing was probably just getting the whole thing live, and then we've done loads of things. The blockchain doesn't work on proof of work anymore. It works on something called proof of responsibility, which is something we've developed. We've had. I don't know what that is. What's proof of responsibility? Proof of responsibility was just once again we sort of looked at it and said, well, everybody using proof of work is doing one thing, is using vast amounts of electricity, and we were ourselves. There were at least 300,000 ASICs running when we were on proof of work, at least. And that was when we worked out the hashing rate. That was if they were the ones that were available then. The older ones would have needed 3 or 4 of them to get that hashing power. So probably I would say there was a minimum of 300,000, maybe as many as 500,000 ASICs were mining ETN. And so when we worked that out, it was the equivalent of something like 14 million light bulbs of power being used constantly to make our blockchain operate. And as a company that cares about the world and making it a better place, it didn't seem like the right thing to be doing. So we thought, okay, proof of stake still really hadn't got to where we thought it was in any way applicable to us, and also proof of stake focuses huge amounts of cryptocurrency in one place and concentrates it to the rich, which is not really what we were about either.
Okay.
So we ended up with NGOs as our, long story short, we ended up reaching out to NGOs that were the responsible parties, and we got our validating servers being operated by NGOs, and we're just about next month probably, so I'm announcing it on your show. We're just about to start reaching out to, in fact we have a little bit already, some universities. So we thought, especially universities that are running Ripple servers, yes, because if they're already running Ripple validators with no block reward, we thought, well, actually, if they're doing good things and they're going to spend it on equipment, they're going to spend it on research, they're going to spend it on education, actually, let's widen our validator net outside of NGOs, but they're all responsible parties.
Yes.
So that was a critical part for us, and it reduced our server count effectively from the hundreds of thousands down to, at the moment, there's a dozen validators running, and we intend to get that up to more like 30, 40 validators, and that's plenty. You can run hundreds of thousands of transactions an hour on those. Without
has anyone else emulated proof of responsibility? Is that just
well, people have forked our project, so
okay.
I can't name them, but there's quite a lot of forks of our project, so people will be tinkering around with it and doing their own thing. What it does give you is it is at the moment very much, there is a centralized aspect to Electroneum, which is we have. You'll know it, Monty, but we have something called Marmite in the UK, which people either love it or they hate it. So there's very much this sort of position where some people actually hate the concept of the fact we've got a central issuance of keys. So we issue sort of like a license key almost to be a validator, and we do that centrally.
No, okay,
so
I get it. Yeah, I actually like starting the day with a bagel, Marmite, and avocado on top. That's because I'm
really properly living the dream with that.
Middle class wanker. Do you know what I mean?
I would have thought you need some asparagus in this.
Or some polenta.
It sounds really good.
Oh, brilliant. Hey, listen, I'm looking forward to meeting you in the flesh, face to face. It's electroneum.com, right? For anyone.
It is.
Yeah. Any final words to the audience about? I mean, you seem to be a good man doing good things in the world.
This is the thing. Crypto can make the world a better place. Electroneum is way down the track already in making the world a better place. But the one thing I want people to take away from this is projects that are out there, they have to have something that's sustainable. It has to be able to still exist in a decade's time. It has to still grow, and it has to still be able to work. So you need to be behind some fundamentals in the business itself. And I think an awful lot, a lot of that gets missed. And we've got a really strong team, really strong business with a sustainable method of existing beyond ICO, beyond keep raising. So I think that that's critical for people's thoughts, should we say.
Absolutely. I mean, the planet's dying. We've got to save it, right? Do you know what I mean? And unbanked lives matter. I think that's in my head now. Next week, obviously, we've got Charles from Ethereum. This week, we've had Richard of Electroneum. It could have been a periodic table edition. It was a rapidly thought out brand. But the work you're doing sounds really interesting. I wasn't expecting this conversation to go the way it has, which is generally what happens on this show anyway. I'd like to thank Richard Ells. Thank you very much for your time, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take a dose of lithium. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Richard. I'm off to watch Royal Ascot. I'll see you next week. Considerably richer when Verboten wins the 410. Peace and love. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.